One morning, Estela is sailing on a sailboat with some friends when the waves suddenly become fierce and unpredictable. On the shore, several people watch the situation with concern, among them a young man named Christian. The sailboat tilts more than it should, and the fear of sinking grows with every passing second. Quickly, those on the dock try to stabilize the boat, pulling on ropes and shouting instructions. Suddenly, a sudden movement causes the mast to swing, and it hits Estela squarely in the face. She collapses backward and falls into the water without reacting. Rewinding in time, Estela smokes peacefully on the dock and watches the townspeople with a distant calm. Living there feels strange to her, especially since she comes from London, and the routine feels foreign. For his part, Christian, an 18-year-old boy, works on the fishing boats during his vacation weeks. At that moment, Estela appears in his line of sight in a boat that's approaching. It's clear that Christian really likes the woman, even though she's several years older than him. He keeps watching her in silence, captivated by her presence. Shortly after, Estela comes over to meet them and boards the boat to chat with the workers. Christian is delighted and can barely manage to talk. It becomes clear to Estela that the boy is interested in her. The attraction lingers in the air, waiting for the next move. Later, during a party on the pier attended by all the townspeople, Estela and Christian make eye contact amid the music and lights, but they don't approach each other to talk. She moves among the groups while he follows her with his gaze. As night falls, a man dressed as an octopus entertains the crowd, though his unsteady walk betrays his drunkenness. He approaches Estela and asks her to dance. She accepts, feeling somewhat uncomfortable at being the center of attention. To make matters worse, the man won't let her go and struggles with her, trying to carry her off. Estela pushes him away and screams, causing the laughter to stop instantly. A teacher from the town asks the man to leave her alone. He refuses and declares that he will make her his woman, which enrages Christian, who lunges at him and punches him in the face. The fight is about to break out when the teacher steps in. Meanwhile, Estela runs out of the place under the watchful eyes of everyone. In the early morning, Christian returns to the dock to place the fishermen's safety buoys. At that very moment, Estela, still up from the night before, watches him from her balcony. They make eye contact, and he is captivated by her. Noticing this, she goes into her room, leaving the door open so he can see her as she changes. A sudden phone call interrupts and breaks the moment, leaving him breathless. A few minutes later, Estela is already dressed and walks along the dock looking for Christian. She finds him, greets him naturally, and they chat briefly. He responds politely, trying to keep his voice from trembling. Then, Christian suggests she join him to place the buoys out at sea. She agrees and they both get into a boat that glides toward the deep water. The decision takes them away from the dock and closer to the inevitable. Now alone, the boy feels the urge to touch her, but holds back, unsure of how Estela will react. This is Christian's first clash between desire and guilt. His trembling hand says more than any words could. He wants to touch, but he's afraid of breaking something he doesn't understand. The sea begins to stir. It's a sign that a storm is approaching and they need to move quickly. They don't have time to return to the dock, so they decide to go to a nearby island called Rocky Island. To protect the boat, Christian drops the anchor while she jumps into the sea to swim to the island. On that spot, there's a cabin that used to belong to an old bird hunter, a dry shelter in the midst of the wind. There, they take cover while the storm passes. Christian turns on the heater and moves about restlessly, aware of the woman's wet body. To distract himself, he starts making coffee so they can warm up. Estela, on the other hand, has other plans to get warm. She asks him to sit with her on the bed, and once he's in front of her, she caresses his face. For him, it's too much pressure and his desire gets the better of him. He can't resist stealing a kiss from her. Immediately, fear overwhelms him, so he pulls away abruptly. Estela stays still for a second, then throws herself at him. Their bodies come together without another word. They make love for the first time, and everything changes sides. During the intense moment, a flashback of Christian shows Estela falling into the sea. He sees her sinking, unconscious. Just as she disappears under the water, he runs and jumps in, managing to bring her to the surface, saving her from drowning. An hour later, they both return to the dock. There, a teacher sees them arrive and finds it odd to see them together. However, after a brief conversation with Estela, he decides not to dwell on it. His eyes, however, hold a discreet suspicion. Discretion becomes a thread that could snap at any moment. When the holidays end, the school year begins. The last one Christian needs to complete to graduate. To his surprise, Estela will be his English teacher. Now he must make sure his classmates don't find out he had an affair with the teacher. Every class is a tightrope on which he barely manages to keep his balance. Even so, like any impulsive teenager, he decides to take the risk. One day he dresses up, borrows a car, and goes out to invite her. At first, Estela completely ignores him while he drives beside her. After his persistence, the woman finally gets into the car to say they should avoid being seen together and that their affair can't happen again. Christian doesn't want that. He insists and becomes so charming that he convinces her to keep being lovers. Their agreement is sealed in complicity. The boy gets out of the car to take pictures of Estela. She poses, both shy and confident. Among the various photos, one stands out. Estela and Christian look into each other's eyes with an affection that's impossible to hide. From then on, they often go to the beach to talk away from the eyes of the town. However, on one occasion, they run into a group of boys at the beach. They are Christian's classmates, so they immediately recognize Estela as the teacher. She pretends to be chatting with Christian because they ran into each other by chance, so she claims she came to have some fun. To prove it, she gets up to play volleyball with her other students, barely managing to keep up the act. Next, during English class, Christian can't resist his impulse in his imagination. He thinks it's best to give in to love. He gets up and kisses Estela in front of the whole class. She kisses him back and their classmates applaud. But it was all a daydream that dissolves with a blink. In reality, he complains about the bad grade on an essay, to which Estela scolds him for his poor analysis and writing in English. The clash with reality leaves him with a bitter taste. Knowing that things between them aren't right, Christian visits her at her house. She hurriedly lets him in and asks him to get to the point. The boy mentions that he would like to go to Rocky Island again. The suggestion hangs between them like a lifeline. She weighs the risks before answering. Estela agrees. During another early morning escape to Rocky Island, a fisherman sees them arrive at the dock. Noticing they've been seen together, Estela is filled with horror and quickly walks away. At that moment, she runs into a friend from town, who greets her warmly and starts to chat. This friend knows that Estela is having a romance with an 18-year-old boy because Estela herself told her, and she asks her to be discreet, since many people suspect she is involved with Christian, which is a problem due to the age difference. It's clear that this could get her into trouble. Fortunately, Estela is planning to do something about it, and urgently. Meanwhile, Christian is in his room developing the photographs he took of Estela. He pauses at the picture where they are looking intently at each other. Captivated by the beautiful memory, suddenly his mother enters the room and catches sight of the photos spread out. When she sees the photo of the two of them together, the woman says nothing. However, the next day, Christian overhears his parents talking about him and Estela. They are confused. At first, they thought Christian only admired her, but now it's clear to them that there's something more between the two. They find it outrageous that Estela is teaching at the school and allowing such a situation. Their words weigh like a judgment. The house no longer offers refuge, and something essential is revealed. No one is seeing the love. Everyone is looking at the scandal. That's how morality works when age becomes uncomfortable. On another early morning, Christian sleeps in the boat, hoping to meet Estela and run away together. However, she doesn't come to meet him. She boards a sailboat with other people to go for a ride on the sea. Christian is surprised and disappointed when he realizes she doesn't want to be with him. A few hours later, a storm approaches and stirs the sea so much that they lose control of the sailboat. The mast hits Estela. She falls into the water and is rescued by Christian. In the present, after Estela's incident, the principal calls her classmates to visit her in the hospital, since her health is delicate. She is in such bad shape that she doesn't move. She just watches them from the bed, without any expression. That night, the boy has a nightmare about Estela that makes him wake up suddenly, his heart pounding. Then he rushes out on his bicycle late at night toward the hospital. When he enters the room where she is hospitalized, he realizes that no one is there. A nurse approaches him. He asks about the teacher, to which the woman replies that she has just passed away and they've taken her to the morgue. The news hits him hard and leaves him breathless, devastated. He isolates himself for a while on Rocky Island to let it all out, far from voices and glances. He sits in front of the sea and lets the pain out. How does one learn to say goodbye to a love that could never fully exist? Then he goes to Estela's house to speak with the woman's father. The old man greets him, confirms that she has died, and also gives him a letter that Estela wrote for him. At that moment, Christian is unable to read it. The envelope feels heavier than his hands. The next day, the school holds a tribute for Estela, and the principal asks the students for a minute of silence to remember her. Christian closes his eyes and remembers one of the many times they went to the beach. They were naked, lying on a blanket, when he decided to tell her that he loved her. The declaration moves the woman, who ends up kissing him and making love. Coming out of his memories, Christian runs out of the school and urgently pedals to the pier. The funeral for Estela is being held there, so he hurries, gets into a boat, and approaches a launch where the woman's father and a priest are. Christian witnesses as Estela's ashes are scattered into the sea. Then, he decides to read the letter. It's a postcard on which she wrote that she loves him. The words fall like a final caress. Overcome by sadness, he dives into the water to stay under the sea for a while. Suddenly, Estela appears in a long dress, floats beside him, and gives him a kiss. That kiss represents the love she had for him and brings their impossible love story to a close. Before another emotional storm breaks out, choose one of these videos.